but the white line in front of the box, if you like.
Yeah. With the gap behind him, it gives Darren Goes a good opportunity to try and propel himself into a good position at the start. But of course, the front-wheel drive Seat Leon might not be quite as quick as I would have thought the cars behind him, the rear-wheel drive Porsche, and in particular, the rear-wheel drive mid-engine Vauxhall VX220 of what is Mark Penny might be one to watch out for. So let's have a look. This is a 45-minute race to say colours. Black and orange Porsche on pole position. Largely sort of grey and blue, isn't it? Dylan Brichter's car, Brichter rather, that sits alongside. Then the gap on the second row of the grid, where we've got then just the black Citroen Saxo of Ryan Steele on his own on row number 2. Red lights are on, revs begin to rise, pit window only opens 15 minutes into the race, lights go out. As I thought, Mark Penny at the wheel of the rear-wheel drive Vauxhall gets it off the line. Well, it's a very slow start for the Mangoes Racing Seat Leon in the hands of Darren Goes, but it is going to be the Porsche of Simon Clark that leads the field up towards Paddock Hill Bend for the first time. It is going to be through in second position Kester Cook at the wheel of the Ford Fiesta that's there in second position, and third at the moment is Mark Penny. He's got Dylan Brichter going with him though. Dylan's got the inside line as they turn their way through Paddock Hill Bend, so I think the Seat Ibiza should just sneak its way through. Indeed it does, yeah, it sneaks through into third. Up into fourth comes the black Citroen Saxo in the hands of Ryan Steele, and the fast starting Mark Penny, it's all sort of come undone rather, isn't it? He sits there in fifth position. It's all very tight further back, cars bouncing across the curves, which includes the Peugeot 306 of Dan Abbott, who is looking to try and make progress, because that is a particularly quick car, but it went off very early on in the qualifying session, so it's a little bit out of position, is it, car number 67?
Now, on that gap on the inside of row 2, where James Britton should have been, you were quite right to point out that handed a great opportunity to Darren Goes on the inside of row 3, but he was not able to make the most of it. He got a really poor start, and that also held up the number 48 Porsche, which was just behind. He had to brake and avoid hitting, because he got a very good start. Now Darren Goes, he's making up for it, isn't he? He's got himself up into fourth place under braking for Paddock Hill Bend, but yeah, that was not the best capitalisation of the opportunity that was presented, which cannot be said for the pole sitter and race leader. He got a great start, got off the line really well, and Simon Clark has got a goodly advantage for this the second time coming down towards Graham Hill Bend. Through the corner he goes, and his advantage at the end of the first lap, albeit from the standing start, was 1.8 seconds. That's not bad after just one lap, is it?
No, not at all. The progress of the Peugeot has been halted somewhat because Dan Abbott has gone off the circuit at Graham Hill Bend all over the grass. We've also got one in the gravel trap at Paddock Hill Bend, which I fear, well, it's one of the BMWs, and on the basis that Mark Flower's car didn't start because he withdrew from this race meeting. I think it must be car number 106, which is Gary Burstow, who has gone into the gravel, and that is going to bring about the safety car very early on into this start of the race for the MSV Trackday Championship.
That's good news for Darren Goes. Not such good news for Simon Clark, who leads, because the advantage that he had is now going to be instantly eroded. But for Darren Goes, it gives him the opportunity to perhaps pick off a place or two on the restarts, because he's got himself up into fourth position. But now that gap is going to come down. It was about 2 seconds before him, between himself and Dylan Brichter in third place in car number 16. So recovery about to be effected, and of course the clock will continue to count down on the overall race distance. So we've only really had
Formula E.
Martin Haven?
Yeah, absolutely.
Was it?
Yeah, very, very briefly. Yeah, he did do some mini sevens, did Martin Haven?
Do you know? I didn't know that.
Yeah. So lights out on the safety car. There we go.
Very lean and trim, Martin Haven now. He's built like a racing snake.
About to get the race back underway. It's been a good restart from Simon Clark, who has already built up a bit of an advantage between himself and Kester Cook, who might have to stick his elbows out here, because Dylan Brichter at the wheel of the Seat is not too far away. So we get the race back underway. Darren Goes still through in fourth place, Ryan still in fifth, and now to sixth place comes Jamie McHugh, who timed it to perfection, didn't he? You can't overtake until you reach the start-finish line. As soon as he got past the start-finish line, the Porsche of Jamie McHugh sides his way through and ahead of the Vauxhall VX220 of Mark Penny, who, yes, may well have dropped to seventh, but he's still leading his class.
He is, yeah. Class leaders in the lead of the race. Simon Clark leads his class as well, car number 23. Second place, number 93, leads class. In 6th place, number 5 leads his class. In 10th place, number 99 leads its class. And Alf Hyde leads his class as well in 12th place, number 172.
We're going to have a shuffle for the order, are we, for second and third place? Not quite. Dylan Brichter couldn't quite work his magic and get the Seat ahead of Kester Cook's Ford Fiesta. And the reason those two got very close together was because there was lots and lots of oversteer from Kester Cook's car as the tail end lost traction coming round through Graham Hill Bend. That slithered him wide on the exit of the corner, slowed his progress and allowed the Seat to close in, but he's now got it all back under control again as Kester Cook, so the order still remains the same inside the top 3. Simon Clark back on with things straight away. New fastest lap of the race for the race leader, 1 minute 4.773. We are now, unbelievably, Alan, only 4 minutes away from the pit window opening.
Oh, I see. Right, okay, yes. Point taken.
No,
that's fine. No, I do. I need to go down. Yeah, because it's only quarter of an hour in, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
A number of laps under the safety car. I'll go and prepare myself. Also, I'll be able to report on a car which has been down in pit lane for a little while as well.
Yep, so Alan Hyde very shortly will make his way down into the pits. The car that's in the pit lane that we will be hearing about shortly is unfortunately the number 67 car, which is the Abbott Motorsport Peugeot 306. Dan Abbott was starting behind the wheel of that car that underwent a significant rebuild over the course of the winter to try and make it ever more competitive this year. But the problem is that when you rebuild a car to try and make it more competitive, occasionally you find an Achilles heel that maybe didn't exist before, and the bonnet is off on that Peugeot as it remains stationary in the pit lane area. Over the start-finish line go the lead 3, Clark from Cook from Brichter, with number 22 Darren Goes in 4th place, Ryan Steele in 5th place, Jamie McHugh in 6th place. Up to 7th now has come Mike Morace. He's up into 7th place, and also now up into 8th place has come Jack Wright at the wheel of the Team Air Supply Mini, and that's important because it now means that Mark Penny at the wheel of the Vauxhall VX220 no longer leads his class, that being Class B. It is the Porsche of Jack Wright that has now gone ahead of him in that particular class as they work their way downhill in towards the braking area for Graham Hill Bend. Was the leading trio already stretching their legs down the Cooper Straight through the left-hander at Surtees up towards McLaren and on towards Clearways. There's a good fight further down through the order that's worth keeping an eye on. Some 5 cars all squabbling away. I think it's Jim McDougall's Toyota MR2, car number 14, that's at the head of a little batch of cars. He has got right behind him the Ford Fiesta that sits very much in his wheel tracks, which is the XR2 that sits behind him. That is going to be the number 6 car in the hands of Oliver O'Neill, who has now got, by the look of things, Dean Hyde's Ford Puma looking to try and draw himself alongside. Dean Hyde's got the inside line. Can he sneak his way through? At Surtees, no is the answer, because there was briefly a yellow flag out there. I think somebody slithering off the circuit bringing about the yellow, so overtaking opportunity not available for Dean Hyde, so he slots his black Ford Puma back behind the light green Ford Fiesta, which he's now looking to try and nip his way through and past on the exit of Clearways. Gets a better run up towards Clark Curve, so place gained for Dean Hyde. He was in 20th position, he moves up to 19th, but is under attack. That is a good little fight. Might be down towards the bottom of the top 20, and still they're side by side through Paddock Hill Bend. Dean Hyde has eventually, though, managed to hang on to the place over Oliver O'Neill's light green Ford Fiesta. Won't be that much longer, though, before our race leaders are getting themselves amongst the traffic. The top 3 also closing up as well now, as over the start-finish line now come. We're a minute away from the pit window opening. 11 laps completed. Simon Clark leads from the Ford Fiesta of Kester Cook. The relative advantage that he's got has been reduced by another quarter of a second on that lap, so it's down to 1.7 seconds between first and second, with third place going the way still of Dylan Brichter. 4th and 5th getting ever closer to each other. Ryan Steele and Darren Goes together. Ryan was in 4th place. He's just now been eclipsed by the Seat Leon of Darren Goes. Race winner this year is Darren in the MSV Trackday Championship, but he's got that very, very quick Citroen Saxo of Ryan Steele right in his wheel tracks as they head downhill and into the braking area for Graham Hill Bend. And with that little squabble continuing, we are now literally only a matter of seconds away from the pit window opening. Ryan Steele at the wheel of the Lakeland Motorsport entered Citroen Saxo, And for Ryan Steele, this year when he's been out, he's been competitive. His best result of the season at the wheel of the black Citroen was first round at Snetterton on the 300 circuit, where he finished in 2nd position overall. So the leading 3 back over the start-finish line, traffic up the road needing to be dealt with. The first of the cars that's going to be lapped is going to be Perry Tubbs' Proton Satria. That is the next car that is going to be met by our race leader Simon Clark, who is now onto his 13th lap of the race. And is Perry going to see the car coming? Marshals, I'm sure, will pick it up and wave the blue flags. Proton Satria, thankfully, as far as the race leader is concerned, is going to be met along the Cooper Straight, so not a great deal of time lost there for our race leader. As further down through the order, we've got a rotating Toyota MR2 on the exit of Clark Curve, which thankfully is avoided by others. The rotating car, I think, was Jim McDougall that had the moment, and that also then subsequently caused the Mini Cooper of Simon Reed to have a spin at Clark Curve, also having to avoid both the light green Ford Fiesta of Oliver O'Neill and then the Ford Puma, the silver car in the hands of Alan Hyde. So thankfully incident averted. But for a split second, the Toyota was sideways in the track, as into the pit lane, the first of the pit stoppers to come in was Kester Cook, number 93, who was running in 2nd position.
Going down the pit lane just as the little Peugeot was about to leave and retire, the Abbott's number 67 Peugeot, which is not firing correctly, unfortunately, so that's not good news. It's going off to the lower paddock and is about to retire. But opportunity to check wheel nuts on Kester Cook's car and check tyre pressures as well, going right the way around and just making sure that all the wheel nuts are tight. That's good attention, isn't it, from the team. And now the tyres are up to temperature. You can tell they are because they're steaming a little as the surface water has been picked up coming down into pit lane. So the tyres are up to temperature, and therefore just a little bit of the air pressure out to make them work just that much better. The stopwatch counting down, and thumbs up to indicate 1 minute spent down in pit lane. Oh, it's getting that much busier. I cannot tell you how happy I am in my natural habitat. It's like I've been unleashed. I've got the Porsche, the Boxster, into pit lane, the number 23 car of Simon Clark. So I'm going to leave Kester Cook's car and come to your end of the pit lane. It is remarkable the difference I experience in feeling what I feel down here in pit lane, being amongst the teams and watching you can see that they've all worked out exactly how they're going to plan their pit stops and checking wheel nuts and all of that kind of thing. Simon Clark is remaining here in pit lane. There's a mallet underneath the right front wheel. Kester Cook's on his way, so down pit lane and about to rejoin. Simon Clark being told by the team when he's due to be able to go. They are relying on an iPhone for timing. You see, now I'd really worry about that, for the simple reason that you could touch the screen of that and all of a sudden lose all of your timing. I'd be Dick Bennett's down here. I'd have a stopwatch and a spare around my neck, but iPhone seems to be the way to go for our race leader, Simon Clark, who's now finished the small service that the car has had, having the wheel nuts checked and the tyre pressures just adjusted slightly. But if it was my iPhone, then all of a sudden the screen would sort of go into lock mode just about 20 seconds before the critical point. And then I'd try and open it up with my fingerprint and then realise it was too wet to do that. So it would be an endless story of difficulties. There we go, the mallet has come out, which means he is soon to be given the word. On he goes and release. So 23 Simon Clark back on circuit.
Yeah, I noticed that Ryan Steele has also come in at the wheel of the number 10 Citroen Saxo. He's not the only car that's in though, because we've also got Dean Hyde at the wheel of the Ford Puma. Simon Reed's in as well, isn't he, at the wheel of the Mini?
I can't see him, but I can see the number 14 McDougall car down pit lane about to rejoin. I'm in front of the number 10 car of Ryan Steele, in fact, and it's just being held. He wants to talk to the team in order to see the iPhone, which is counting down. This is the modern form of timing, and I'll be honest, I'm not happy about this. It's fraught with potential errors, but see, the thing is, we all carry in our pocket now a very good camera, a very good stopwatch, and oh yeah, it's a phone as well, isn't it?
You will be able to do me one small favour whilst you're in the pit lane.
Depends what it is.
Well, it's a nice easy one, because the one thing I have not printed out within the sort of resume of the regulations is whether they have to drop a score or not. Now, our championship leader didn't start the race, and Kester Cook could overhaul his tally, but if drop scores come into account, that might not be possible. So maybe a clarification as to, of the rounds that take place, whether they count them all or maybe drop their worst score would be handy.
Okay, I'll see what I can find out for you. I shall speak to her.
I suspect Kester Cook's team will know the score, won't they?
Yes, I think they probably will. And I would suggest that that's a very good question, because it may well be the reason why James Britton has not taken the start of this race.
That's what I'm wondering. That's what I'm wondering. But it's very, very unlike me not to print that particular bit of information out. Jamie McHugh is into the pits. His Porsche was inside the top 3, but it's now trundled its way down the pit lane. We've had about half of the field stop, I would say now, Alan.
Yeah, probably so. And we've got a little bit of rain coming down now. It's only light rain. It's only very fine rain, but it's rain nevertheless. And when I came down to pit lane, there was no rain at all. So it's a slight change of conditions. It's not going to change things on track, that's for sure. Just walking up to the number 25 Porsche. Windscreen wipers working away. Still being held down in pit lane. He's timing himself.
And is it my imagination, or has Simon Reed's Mini been in for a lot longer than 120
Still
seconds?
Here.
Yeah.
Still here. So the number 4 Mini now down pit lane, but it's only a trundle, and it's not going into the fast lane in pit lane either. So he's on the move. He's making his way down pit lane, but it's pretty slow, and looks as if, well, I thought he was going to turn right and go to the outer paddock, and he is turning right and going to the outer paddock. So that's going to be a retirement. What a shame. Great shame.
I thought he'd been in the pit lane for certainly a lot longer than 120 minutes. Looks as though Perry Tubb is in at the wheel of the Proton Satcher. He's at the very top of the pit lane, but somewhere about where you are, you should be seeing the Renault Clio coming in, and that is going to be Tony Hobson, car number 99, giving way to Johnny Sharp.
I'm just looking at the Pertec liveried car and getting lovely flashbacks to the VTCC. I tell you what, the Pertec colour scheme and logo lends itself particularly well, doesn't it, to a racing car? Absolutely splendid.
It just looks right, doesn't it? Yeah.
It looks quick as well. Yeah. Whatever it goes on, you could do a 2CV in that, and you'd think it was quick.
Mark Penny at the wheel of the Vauxhall VX220 is in as well. We've got some 7 minutes of the pit window still remaining open, and I think actually you'll see that Alf Hyde is coming in now as well, Alan.
I need to go and have a chat. Hammer out a deal for an excellent registration number. I'll tell you what, he came in at quite a rate as well. So he comes to a stop now. I think he's just going to have a drink of water, and he's got a bit of misting up on the inside of the windscreen. I'm not too worried about that. It's misted up in places that don't really bother him. Dylan Brichter comes into pit lane as well. Don't forget, he started on the outside of the front row of the grid, and it's really weird saving my name on the side of the car. It's really odd. It's a very odd feeling. And his little Fiesta is properly steamed up as well. Not only on the windscreen, although he's controlling that with the blower, but I can feel inside the car it's really, really hot, and that's not going to make things any easier for the side windows that are misted up. The rear window is fine, that's being taken care of, but it is a bit of an issue, and therefore he's going to now just have one of the team lean in and wipe it. Is it a potato that you can wipe on the inside of a windscreen?
Allegedly, yes. If your windscreen wipers fail, you wipe a potato on them.
Cut a potato in half and wipe it over, and it's much more effective than a than a tissue, which is what's happened to Alpine. They're just checking the steering on the car at the moment.
Washing up liquid as well, isn't it, on the inside of a windscreen?
Washing up liquid, yeah, but I prefer the potato.
So whilst we've got 20 minutes of the race to go, at the moment, just to pick up on what's going on, car number 22 leads, which is Darren Goes, who does, I think, come into the pit lane at the end of this lap. Indeed he does, yeah. So Darren Goes was the race leader. He's in the leading car that has pitted, Alan, at this stage. Is still going to be the number 23 Porsche of Simon Clark, who's now up to 8th.
Alpine is ready to go, so he goes down pit lane now and is about to rejoin, and Darren Goes comes to a stop right at your end of pit lane, so take me a moment or two to get down to him. Absolutely splendid livery, that, isn't it?
You can't miss it, can you?
It's just brilliant. I think people should think more, you know, in the when you're racing out in Asia, all the cars are very, very brightly liveried and generally finished a bit like Andrew Jordan's Ford Focus this year in a shiny finish as well, and they are much easier to pick out, it has to be said. If you can get a bit of day glow colour on your car, then for spectators to enjoy the race, much easier to pick them out. But just the use of colour on Darren Goes' car makes it exceptional to look at, not just the fact that it's bright. Beautifully presented car, that.
It is. It's staggeringly well prepared, isn't it? Yeah?
It really is, yeah. It's proper.
Gary Littlewood at the wheel of the number 57 Renault Clio, who hasn't pitted, was up to 4th place, but he's just had a big moment through Surtees, and it took a long period of time for him to scrabble his way back off the grass, leading the race. But now coming into the pits is Jack Wright, so that's the number 48 Team Air Supply Porsche. He was leading. That is going to hand the lead of the race over to the Ford Focus of Paul Hatton, unless he pits at the end of this lap.
So 48 in pit lane, 22 in pit lane. Down pit lane comes number 6. And the other thing about the MSVR Trackday Championship is that just got a huge range, not just of makes and types of car, but also eras as well.
Yeah.
As the relatively recent car of Darren goes down pit lane, accelerates out and is about to join in. We've got the Ford Fiesta number 6, which has come to a stop down in pit lane of Oliver O'Neill some 20 or so years earlier. Reminds me of a car from the Ford Credit Fiesta Championship from many years ago. That so many of our star drivers nowadays started their tin-top racing careers in.
Yeah, likes of Gordon Shedden, wasn't it? Started in the Ford
Colin
Fiesta.
Turkington.
Yep. So leading the race now is the Ford Focus. So Paul Hatton, number 81, the Ford Focus hasn't as yet pitted. He leads the race by 40 seconds from the number 57 Renault Clio of Gary Littlewood, who is second in the race and hasn't pitted as yet. Other than that, everybody else has been in. It does look as though Ford Focus of our race leader, Paul Hatton, is going to relinquish that lead of the race. So the best of the battles at the moment is actually now going to be for what should be the overall lead, as and when the pits have cycled their way through, because Dylan Brichter's Seat Leon has got the Porsche Boxster of Simon Clark right behind him. Brichter, in theory now, once all the cars have cycled through, will be leading the race, but the safety car is coming back out, Alan.
Is it, by Jove? So too is the rain. It's raining a little heavier now once again. Confirmation that one of the scores this year is dropped in their championship year. So one round is dropped.
Thank you.
So I think that confirms what you quite rightly thought, Mark. And I've got the number 81 car down in pit lane as well. So with the windscreen wipers whizzing from side to side on the little Fiesta. Just one car down in pit lane. That's Paul Hatton's Fiesta. I say just one car. It now becomes two cars because Variety 57 comes to a stop with a bit of evidence of bit of grass on the side of that car.
I think that was the off at Surtees, for Gary Littlewood. It took a long time to scrabble his way back off the grass there.
And he's also struggling with visibility inside the car, and that's the problem, you know, when the temperature outside is pretty cool and wet, and inside the car you're breathing. I mean, if drivers could work out a way of doing 45 minutes without breathing, it'll be absolutely fine, but of course they can't. So therefore, with a pretty warm temperature inside. Oh right, it's even more than that for Gary Littlewood. It's also steamed up spectacles, which can't be at all nice. Yeah, very, very difficult. That's the problem. So the team have tried their very best to make it as clear as possible inside, but so just imagine if you've got a steamed up windscreen and steamed up spectacles as well. Yeah, right.
Rather difficult, yeah, rather difficult.
Rather him than me.
We say the safety car is out. It actually hasn't appeared on the circuit yet. It is poised and ready to go. It's just waiting to make sure that it comes out directly ahead of the race leader. The reason the safety car is coming out is because Richard Wayne has deposited the Pertec liveried Proton Satria right on the very, very edge of the gravel at the bottom of Paddock Hill Bend. It's almost as though the right-hand side of the car is on the curbs and the left hand of it is in the gravel, but clearly all four must be in the gravel, and that's why we can't have the car remaining where it is, because it's absolutely on the very edge of the circuit. So just to run you down through the order at the moment, leading the race is car number 16, which isn't actually the car that the safety car has come out in front of it. There just wasn't a gap in the traffic. Number 16, Dylan Brichter, leads the race from number 23, which is Simon Clark's Porsche. Third at this stage is number 93, Kester Cook, who leads his particular class, but is under immense pressure, or will be once we get the race back underway, from number 22, which is Darren Goes at the wheel of the Mangoes racing car. He sits there fourth. Fifth at the moment is number 25, which is Jamie McHugh at the wheel of his Porsche, and it is George Wright, number 48, that is there in sixth place. Number 7 is seventh, which is Lewis Denslow. Eighth place is number 3, which is Mike Morace. Ninth place is number 10, which is Ryan Steele, and it's the Vauxhall VX220 of Mark Penny that's there in 10th place. The respective class leaders, therefore, Class A is being led by the overall race leader, which is Dylan Brichter. Number 93, Kester Cook, leads Class S at this stage. He's there in third position overall. Down in sixth position, number 48 is the Class B leader, which is George Wright behind the wheel of the Team Air Supply Porsche. If you look down to 11th position at car number 111, that is the Class C leader, which is Colin Tester. Down in 12th position, car number 71 leads Class G, which is John Lynn. And then if we go all the way down to 18th position, car number 6 leads Class D, which is Oliver O'Neill. I think they're all of your respective class leaders at this stage. And now with the confirmation that you drop your worst round in the Trackday Championship, with the hugely unfortunate James Britton not appearing at the wheel of the White Rose Racing BMW. He is on 157 points in total. He will therefore drop this round in reality, because he is not going to add to that score, so he would be on 157 points, which means that with Kester Cook, his main championship rival, sitting there in third overall, that would give him 24 points, plus an extra point up to a maximum of 5 for each competitor he beats in his class. Well, there's only one other car in his class, which is Darren Goes, and he is ahead of him. That would mean that he would end up with 25 points, plus an extra point for pole position in his class if he got it, which he didn't. He was out-qualified by Darren Goes, but he is, however, going to get the extra point for the fastest lap in his class. You add all of that up, he would be on 148 points, Kester Cook. James Britton would be on 157. So even though he didn't take to the grid, it does look as though the championship is going the way of James Britton, providing, of course, all of the usual caveats. A, my maths are correct, and B, subject to all of the other technical and appropriate confirmations that we need in due course. So the pit window has now closed. Matters not. Everybody leads the race. The lights are out on the safety car, so whilst we haven't got the full train of cars together, with just over 10 minutes to go, we're about to get the race back underway once more, and of course it has massively bunched everybody up. So the first of the lapped cars that's in there is going to be Alan Lynn's number 131 Renault Clio. He is what, the 5th or 6th car in the train, but it's a good restart from Dylan Brichter in the lead of the race, but it needs to be, because he's got the Porsche of Simon Clark looking to try and attack him as they get the race back underway. Kester Cook was a little slow getting going, so he's in third place, but some way adrift off the leading pair, who are nose to tail up towards Paddock Hill Bend. The Seat Ibiza leads the race with Simon Clark's Porsche there in second position. Third place is Kester Cook. It really has been a good drive from Darren Goes despite the poor start. He's up there into 4th position at this stage, albeit he is bottled up behind the Ford Focus of Paul Hatton, who is a lap adrift and was one of the last cars to stop, Alan. I'm
about to throw you a rather curveball, so tell me that you don't know the answer. It's rather unfair of me, but do you remember in the week that Claire wrote to us and told us about a simulator that was available for this weekend?
I do.
I can almost hear you scrabbling around for the piece of paperwork. Whereabouts was it based, Mark, the simulator that is available this weekend?
The simulator that's available this weekend, which is the Simdustry Limited one, is in garage number 15. Apparently.
Right, okay, so I am in the right place. I just chanced upon just walking down the back of the pit garages. It's raining a little more now, so possibly slightly nicer to be in the garage than actually be out in the pit lane. But I was walking down the back and came across what I'm here now, so I can tell people what's in garage number 15, just based next to the Dunlop area, where the teams have been working hard to put tyres on rims all day, all of the tyre equipment. But alongside, we've got 3 simulators, and they're absolutely fantastic. I mean, maybe I lose sight of just how incredible technology is and how it moves on. But with 2 big signs advertising the world's biggest Porsche magazine, GT Porsche, buy it, read it, drive it, it says. And we've got 3 simulators as well, all working on some very impressive Samsung ultra high definition screens. The reaction of the steering wheel on the software to the actual driving cockpit is pretty much immediate as far as I can see. One of the young drivers here has got the full virtual reality goggles on, and is fully immersed in a night race, and he's loving it. This is fantastic.
We might be able to get a sneaky go in on that later on, will we?
This is absolutely brilliant. And when you watch this young man's head go to the side, you then see it instantly reflect on the television screen.
Wow.
I like this.
Oh, we'll have to pick up on that. There is a short break later on, but we might be able to point ourselves in that general direction.
That's absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So it's the radicalsimulation.com simulators that are down here. There's one with the virtual reality goggles and 2 regular ones, I think. So all in all, very, very impressive.
Yeah, thanks to Ben Zenon from Simdustry Limited for providing that. We'll give you a few more details on that. We're nose to tail for the lead of the race, and there's traffic just ahead as well, as over the start-finish line comes Dylan Brichter, and looking to try and draw himself alongside is Simon Clark at the wheel of the Porsche, but in the straight line to say it is that little bit quicker. They dive up the inside of Dean Hyde's Ford Puma that, thankfully, as far as Dylan Brichter is concerned, stays neatly out of the way. However, it does delay the Porsche of Simon Clark, because it was right on the apex of Paddock Hill Bend where they met the traffic. So advantage gained by Dylan Brichter in the early part of this lap. The next of the cars they're going to catch up with, however, is going to be Johnny Sharp's number 99 Renault Clio, which is not that far up the road. Then it will be Alf Hyde's Ford Fiesta that will need dealing with. And for Dylan Brichter, he can't afford to be held up here, because whilst he gained a very small advantage through the traffic the early part of this lap, with 6.5 minutes to go, he's on his 31st lap. He is now going to catch a train of, what's that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cars that lie just ahead of him, and he's going to have to pick them off very, very quickly indeed. He quickly sneaks up the inside of Johnny Sharp's Renault Clio. Simon Clark will follow him through on the exit of Clearways Corner and up towards Clark, so that's another car dealt with. It's going to be the blue and yellow Ford Fiesta of Alf Hyde that is the next of those that Dylan Brichter will be able to try and work his way through, and past up the inside he goes on the run towards Paddock Hill Bend. Alf Hyde doesn't leave him a gap on the inside, so that sort of compromises the run coming out of the corner for Dylan Brichter. So having gained advantage over Simon Clark on the lap prior, he's probably just lost a little bit there between the two of them. They lapped to within 1/10 of a second of each other. All of this whilst Kester Cook still is there in 3rd position at the wheel of car number 93. Darren Goes is in 4th place, number 22. The Porsche of Jamie McHugh, number 25, is in 5th place. And Lewis Denslow, number 7, completes the top 6 as this time out of Graham Hill Bend goes our race leader. And Dylan Brichter on this lap again has gained a bit more advantage, because Simon Clark's Porsche was bottled up behind Alf Hyde, who again didn't exactly make it easy. And now Dylan Brichter is having to deal with the next of the cars, which I think is going to be Colin Tester's red ML2 which the two red MR2s circulating almost together in reality. As over the start-finish line goes our race leader with now 5 minutes to go, 32 laps completed. It was 0.4 of a second, the gap between first and second. It will have come out now, yeah, it's come out to 0.8 of a second between the Seat Ibiza and the Porsche, which again are having traffic to deal with. Next to the car the race leader is about to side his way past is going to be Callum McDougall's Toyota MR2, who dives at the inside off heading in towards Druids Corner. He's got him between now himself and Simon Clark, who couldn't quite deal with the back marker on the way in towards Druids, so he'll deal with it on the run down in towards Graham Hill Bend. But again, he's just treading very gingerly, is Simon Clark, through the traffic, and this is giving an advantage to Dylan Brichter, who I think A, has had a bit of better luck, but B, is probably just a little more confident with the fact that the back markers are going to get out of the way. So more time lost for Simon Clark. The gap is, I would imagine, going to be more than a second this time as they head over the start-finish line, and there's still further traffic to deal with. They've not done it all as yet, because it's going to be John Lynn's Volkswagen Golf number 71 that Dylan Brichter will need to deal with, and then the last of the traffic thereafter will be the car that runs in 10th position, and it's the last of the cars on the lead lap. Number 5, Mark Penny, is the last of those in this little train that they've all had to work their way through and pass. The gap comes out by another 0.6 of a second that time through, as a better run through the traffic for the Seat compared to the Porsche. Kester Cook is now, however, in third place, 6.2 seconds down the road, and still has 3 seconds between himself and number 22 Darren Goes, who's fourth. Only now do we see Jamie McHugh come over the start-finish line. He is no longer in fifth place. He has been caught and passed on that lap by Ryan Steele at the wheel of the black Citroen Saxo. So position gained by Ryan Steele. He's up to fifth, and Jamie McHugh drops down into sixth place. Nose to tail again for the lead of the race. It really has been a cracking lap from Simon Clark this time through. 1.5 seconds was the advantage, but he's really wound it back up again and is starting to close in on Dylan Brichter for the lead of the race. Over the start-finish line they'll go. Mark Penny's 10th place Vauxhall VX220 just ahead of the leading pair as they turn their way now for the 35th time through Paddock Hill Bend. New fastest lap of the race for Simon Clark, 1 minute 3.892. That was why he closed the gap on race leader Dylan Brichter, and he's now trying around the outside at Druids. They've got Mark Penny's Vauxhall just ahead of them, and if Dylan Brichter isn't careful here, he might get just penned in. Mark Penny still ahead of our race leader, who is going to sneak his way up the inside as they turn their way through Graham Hill Bend. Mark Penny is now going to be placed a lap down. Through goes Dylan Brichter, but Simon Clark is still absolutely with him, 2 nose to tail for what is the 35th time up towards Surtees and on towards McLaren. We've only got 2 minutes of the race to go, so they'll be starting their penultimate lap this next time through. And for the Seat in the hands of Dylan Brichter, the Big Bear Motorsport prepared car, he will be hoping that he can hang on to this lead in the race. Over the start-finish line, they'll come in a straight line, looking as though they are particularly evenly matched. They've also got more traffic to deal with as well on this lap. It's Oliver O'Neill's Ford Fiesta that will need to move out of the way this time through. And as they dive their way down through Paddock Hill Bend, Dylan Brichter still clinging on to the lead of the race. A little bit quicker out of Paddock Hill Bend was the Porsche in second place of Simon Clark, but as they climb the hill, he can't look to try and squeeze his way through. Dylan Brichter's just making sure he positions the car where he needs to here. They're reasonably evenly matched. A bit quicker coming out of the corners is the rear-engined Porsche that can just get the acceleration down that little bit more, and Dylan Brichter might have to go defensive here this time onto the Cooper Straight. They are still nose to tail as they thread their way for the penultimate time through what is the left-hander at Surtees. Then up towards McLaren, Simon Clark looking to try and close in on what for him would be his first victory in the 2016 MSV Trackday Championship. He had a second place earlier on in the year. That was at Donington Park on the Grand Prix circuit, and he has been able to sneak his way through at Clark Curve just as they're about to start the final lap of the race. 35 seconds to go. There is less than a lap time left, and Simon Clark retakes the lead of the race from Dylan Brichter as they turn their way through Paddock Hill Bend. And well, Dylan has not actually given up aspirations of retaking the lead of the race. Further down through the order, there's a big moment coming out of Graham Hill Bend for Gary Littlewood, who rotates the Renault Clio through, well, probably 120 degrees and gathers up the moment. gets himself going just before the race leaders get down to that part of the circuit. But for Simon Clarke, having qualified on pole position, almost a second quicker than Dylan Brichter, he took the lead of the race early on, only for Dylan to reassert himself back into the lead during the pit stop window. But with a lap and a bit to go, the Porsche going back through, retaking the lead of the race. Almost made a mistake that time going around through Clearways Corner. The tail end of the Porsche was just starting to sway a little bit there. It was gathered back under the spell of Simon Clarke, who is going to accelerate his way onto the Brabham Straight to take the checker flag in the final round of the 2016 MSVT Trackday Championship. Simon Clarke claims the win by just 1.3 seconds in the end from number 16. Dylan Brichter, who comes through and finishes in second place. Third place will go the way of number 93, which is Kester Cook, who will finish in third place in the race, and I think mathematically that means that he is now second in the overall championship standings. Fourth goes the way of number 22, Darren Goes. Fifth should go the way of the car that's just heading over the start-finish line now, the black Citroen Saxo of number 10, Ryan Steele. He will finish in fifth place, and sixth place will be number 25, which is the Porsche of Jamie McHugh. Seventh place is, by the look of things, going to go the way of Lewis Denslow's yellow Ford Fiesta. He finishes in seventh place. Eighth place is going to be number 3, which is just heading over the start-finish line now. Just Mike Morace hangs on to it from George Wright as they come through and finish literally overlapping for 8th and 9th position, 78 thousandths of a second between the pair of them. They were also the last couple of cars that remained on the lead lap, with 10th place going the way of number 5, Mark Penny. 11th place was number 71, that was John Lynn. A good result from 26th on the grid. He really did work his way up through the order. Number 111, Colin Tester, was there in 12th position. 13th place is number 172, which is Alf High. 14th place is number 99, Tony Hobson and Johnny Sharp's shared car. Paul Hatton at the wheel of the Ford Focus was there in 15th place. 16th goes away of 131, which is Alan Lim. Gary Littlewood, number 57, was 17th. Oliver O'Neill, number 6, was there in 18th place. 19th was car number 1414, which is Callum and Jim McDougall with the Toyota MR2. Just to give you the top 20, it was number 68, Dean Hyde, in his black Ford Puma, that completed the top 20. So that is it done and dusted in reality for the season for the MSVT Trackday Championship.